And we're joined here today with President and CEO Jeffrey Ackert of Cascade Copper. Welcome, pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Brandon, nice to be here.
Yeah, it's another PDAC. We're launching it today, and there's a lot of interesting stories that are going to be told, they're going to be heard across our network. Yours is the first for today. If you don't mind, for investors who may be hearing about your story for the first time, can you give us an overview of what you've been building with your company?
Sure, absolutely. So the company is called Cascade Copper, listed on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the ticker symbol CASC. And we're a new company. We started April last year, listed there. We raised $1 million, put a good team together. We've got a team of exploration manager Shannon Baird, myself as the president, and Darcy Christian, who's our more or less our PR guy and looking after sort of networking and so on. Very good director. Our team is lean and mean, but we've been able to do quite a bit of work in the last 10 months since we've listed. Our company is focused on copper and copper in Canada. We think Canada is a great jurisdiction. BC in particular, we've got 4 of our assets there. And we've just picked up another asset, copper asset in Ontario. We like Ontario as well. So there's, in a nutshell, and where we're at right now.
Yeah, well, why don't we dive into some of those projects now? We can dive into the projects, but also, like you said before, you just listed in April of last year, and just last month you released your 2023 highlights and exploration results as well. Why don't we start jumping into some of those so people have a better understanding?
Sure, I think that's a great idea. So maybe we can go to the slide and show people where we are. This is on the western side of British Columbia. It's in the southwestern part. It's an area that hasn't seen a lot of attention in the last few years, mainly because of the success that there has been in the Golden Triangle. But still, nonetheless, we've got some excellent projects of our own, but we're surrounded by very good size deposits. Taseko has a New Prosperity deposit in the same belt. In copper, it's like over 1 billion tons. It's huge.
Wow.
Huge deposit. We're also looking at Highland Valley, which is a little bit further to the east, but still similar size. And then down in Washington, there's quite a number of other huge deposits there. For instance, Margaret, Middle Fork, and Glacier Peak, and they're over 1 billion tons. So very large deposits. And that's what we like about this area. We have 3 projects in this area. We've got one called Rogers Creek, which really is our flagship. It's drill ready. We're just waiting for some permitting to happen there. We did a lot of work in the last year on geochemistry, hyperspectral work too, which is really cool. I'd like to talk a little bit more about that maybe later. It's something we want to do for all of our projects, and we started on that. And then Fire Mountain. Fire Mountain is a great project. It's one of the, I'd say, victims of climate change in a good way, though, because all the snow cap is melted away and it's exposed some fantastic looking geology. And we've been in there and did a lot of sampling this year, found some really nice copper numbers, copper, gold, and silver at Fire Mountain. It's basically the Greenfields project, but it's got a lot of potential. We'd like to get back there in this year and do some more work. And then our third project in this belt is up further to the north, and it's in the Goldbridge area. Braylorn, Pioneer mines are just right next door. Talisker has done quite a lot of good work in the area. They've got 1.7 million ounce resource up in that area, and we like that. It's more of a gold centric, but there is some copper credits there. So those are sort of the 3 projects that we've done, worked on this year. Mostly airborne geophysics, LiDAR on everything, soil sampling, rock sampling, and had some really good numbers. So I suggest that your readers and viewers have a look at our website and look at some of the results that we've got there. And it's a really nice website, and there's lots of information there. That's at cascadecopper.com.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So now you also have another property that you said you recently picked up as well.
That's right. Yeah, maybe we can have a look at the next slide. Yes, and we call it Copper Plateau. And this area is again another really prolific copper belt. It's called the Quesnel Terrane. And you can see Copper Mountain is really close to us. And that's the one that was just purchased by Hudbay. And another big deposit, over 1 billion tons. And probably your listeners and viewers have seen heard about PDAC Copper and their project, which is really quite right next door to our copper plateau. And what we've done there is we've actually been able to get on the ground there. It's easy access. You can drive right to it. And we've done some surface sampling. One of the samples came back high-grade copper. It was fantastic. It was like over 11% copper and high-grade gold and silver. And what's even more important, here we go. The picture here shows...
Read your mind there.
Yeah, thank you. The molybdenum, which we see in this right photo, is really, really strong. And that's a really great credit these days. Moly we've got a really high value now in the market as an alloy for metals and so on and so forth. So we did quite a bit of work on the ground there. Again, compilation of old historic work, historic data, geophysics, surface geochemistry, all of that stuff. And what we've done is basically taken all of that historic data from all of our projects and put it into a three-dimensional database. And we're able to view things in 3 dimensions. And it certainly helps for targeting, looking where maybe the gaps are in our database. And we can say, okay, we need to do a bit more here. But ideally what it does is gives us a really good confidence in targeting for drilling. Yeah, and then that's what we plan to do in 2024, and we can talk about that.
Well, exactly. You were segueing into that perfectly and talking about what is to come. You've got a lot of this data. You've got data from what you were able to do last year as well. You've put it all together in your 3D models. You've been looking at this for a long time. We're about to enter the second quarter of 2024. What should investors expect coming from you specifically on the exploration side of things?
Yeah, so the idea is now that we've got all the groundwork done, we've got all the compilations done, we've done quite a bit of hyperspectral work on these porphyry systems, and it really gives us a good idea of where the centers of these systems are. So now we're ready to drill. So we have a drill permit application in place on our Rogers Creek project.
Good, yeah.
We've had First Nations consultation already. Independently, we've gone in and talked to them before even any of the permitting is done.
Very important.
Very key, yeah. So both Fire Mountain and Rogers Creek, we kind of hit those hurdles. So drilling at Rogers Creek, more target development at Fire Mountain, which means groundwork and maybe some IP and that kind of thing. Drilling at Copper Plateau, we're pretty confident we know exactly where we can follow up on the previous work that's been done, and we think we can develop a resource there pretty quickly. Let's say if it's going to be a year, 18 months, but I think we're pretty confident we'll get put together a really good sized resource. Yeah. And then we didn't talk about the Ontario project, but it's another new acquisition. In 2024, it's really got drill-ready targets as well. And the beauty about the Ontario project is the permitting process takes less time. It's probably
always a good thing.
Month and a half to 2 months rather than maybe 6 months in BC.
Yeah.
I mean, BC is it's chock-a-block full of explorers, and the government is just scrambling to try to keep up to that.
Yeah.
Which is good for BC, but to hedge our bets, we've also picked up the Ontario.
No, it's very fair. And in order to do all of this, obviously you need funds. And we were talking a little bit about what you raised prior, but there's also another raise that is currently open. Did you want to mention that really quickly?
Absolutely, yes, and thank you for that. So we've just opened up private placement. It's existing shareholder and some exemptions as well.
Okay.
We put out a press release on that. So I invite people to have a look at our website and pick up the details. But it's a small raise, hard dollar raise at the moment, but it'll get us going and getting us ready for the drilling programs this year.
Perfect. And the last thing I'd like to end off with, and we've already talked about this a little bit as well, but just to really hammer it down, for an investor who's watched all this and they're curious, okay, what should I be excited about coming from your company throughout the remaining of the year? What would you have to say?
Yeah, well, I think we're in the great jurisdictions. We got a great commodity in copper. Everybody knows that copper is going to go to the moon because of the demand, electrification and so on. So I think really we're a very small capital pool. Like we've only got 29 million shares outstanding.
Wow.
So any kind of success that we're going to have, and I know we'll have some, it's going to make the things go.
Perfect. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference as well.
Thank you, Brandon. Cheers.